Thanksgiving break was a cold one. Nice time off from school and work, but it wasn't a break from sports. In fact, Quinnipiac sports were on fire, and like always, Q30 has you covered, so stick around for Bobcat Breakdown. Good evening, everyone. I'm Katie O'Keefe, and tonight's debate features a new fiery duo. Last year, Dylan Fearon and Josh Silverman were the two you could always count on for any argument. But tonight, we have Josh Silverman and Brian Schwartz. So Josh, are you ready to show Brian how it's done?
You know what? His page says Josh is done, so he thinks that he's at Dylan's level. I miss Dylan. You know, we talked to him a lot, sending him our best. You know, I don't know if he's watching or not, but I don't know. Like, I feel like you're definitely not at his level. Like, we don't compare, you know, the Warriors and the Jazz, whatever it may be, but I don't know. I feel like, let's see if you're up to the task.
I'll be at his level. Don't worry. Don't worry, Katie. Don't worry.
All right, let's see it. We start tonight with news that broke over break. Last Tuesday, so a week ago, the university announced a leadership change for women's volleyball. Kyle Lavasser caught the news you see here. Breaking. Quinnipiac women's volleyball head coach Chris Saplinski and assistant coach Chad Davis were fired around 10 this morning due to lack of performance. So Josh, start us off here and tell me, is this lack of performance more on the coaches or the players?
You know, Katie, in college sports, what happens is the coaches recruit the players. So if the players are not performing, regardless, right? If the players are not performing, period, that is on the coaches. But that's not what we have here because this team has talented players, as we saw a year ago. So for me, it is on the coaching staff. And look, it's one of those things where great coaches get fired. I said it last year, or I'm sorry, 2 years ago when Tom Moore got fired, that look, great coaches get fired. I'm not calling, you know, I'm not saying Tom Moore is a great coach. I'm not, you know, evaluating these coaches that were fired as great coaches, but Bill Belichick got fired, Tom Coughlin got fired, you know, in the NFL. So great coaches get fired. Sometimes people need changes of scenery, but these coaches were not getting it done at Quinnipiac. And the administration decided that it was time for them to change. And so for me, I think it is on the coaches. I think when you look at the players and you just look at, you know, college sports is all about the scheme because players are only there for a maximum of 4 years, sometimes a fifth, you know, depending on red shirt or whatever it may be. So when you look at that, when players are constantly coming in and out, then it is on the coaches because either you're not recruiting well enough, or you don't have the right scheme, or you're not able to motivate your players, and you're not able to connect with them. So between any of those things, it is on the coaches and it's not on the players at a certain point.
Answer me this.
Okay.
Are the coaches the one touching the volleyball?
Well, they're recruiting the players that.
Are they the one touching the volleyball?
No, but are the players the one that come up with the scheme?
It doesn't matter. If the players have the talent, which some of these players do, why are they not winning?
Because the coaching staff.
No, it's because the players aren't performing up to their capabilities. You can't blame it on the coaches when the coaches aren't the ones playing.
You just said the players have talent, right?
Yeah.
So if the coaches aren't getting the amount of talent,
but they're not playing up to their capabilities.
Well, that's on the coaching staff to bring out and develop the players as much as you can. That is on the coaching staff.
The coaches aren't the ones touching the ball. The coaches can't actually impact the game during the game. They can tell them what to do, but they can't touch the ball. You have players like Kat Miller, who's at the top of the conference. Where are the players around her? Yes, you're going to say, okay, it's the scheme, whatever. There are other players around her. They're Division I athletes. They're more than capable to win games with a solid team around them. It's on the players. It's not on the coach. I'm sorry.
But that argument is flawed. So are you saying that coaches aren't as valuable as the players in any sport then?
No, coaches are very valuable, and they obviously are valuable here. I'm not saying that Quinnipiac was wrong to fire the coaching staff, but this is on the players in that the players are the ones to win the volleyball games. The coaches are not the ones touch. I'll say it again. They're not the ones touching the ball.
I disagree 100%. Honestly, the coach is the ones that's supposed to get the players prepped, supposed to encourage them and get the right scheme during the game. So everything that the players put onto the court is from the coaching staff. So how you say it's not on the players is blasphemous to me, and it's not me like going over the top or anything like that. Like that's actually an outlandish statement from you, and you're a very smart sports guy, Brian. I don't understand how you think that it's not the coach's job to prepare the players, to get the right scheme in place, to scout the opposing teams. All this is done by the coaches, and when you've seen years of this team underperforming, how is it on the players? What it's been, they've underperformed when players have not been on this roster that are currently on this roster. They've done it before they're here. They did it this year. year, and not at a certain point, it always falls on the coaching staff.
How do you know that the coaches weren't preparing them well and they just weren't executing?
I don't know that
You
because
don't
I'm
know.
not in the locker room. But what I will say
These are
is
good players.
but that's what being a coach is, though. Is you take responsibility for all of that. That's what being a coach is. So when you sign up and you say,
that's why they
I'm
got
going to
fired.
be the
I'm
head
not
coach,
saying-
I'm going to develop these people on and off of the court. I'm going to make them better players off it. We know the NCAA loves to talk about that, and Quinnipiac likes to talk about that as well. So we're going to develop them off the court, and you know what? We're going to make sure that they're as prepared as they can be, so that when they are the ones that touch the ball, I put them in the best position possible to go out and win games. And you know what? I don't think this coaching staff did it for them, or at least the administration does not think that that's what happened.
You don't know that, though. You don't know that they just didn't execute in that game, in the MAC quarterfinal game that they
It's
lost.
not one game, though.
Right, it's the whole season, yes, but this is a team that was going deep. I mean, they lost to Fairfield in the MAC championship just a couple of years ago. They were right there. They have the talent. Yes, you're going to say it's on the coaching staff again.
Finish that sentence.
They didn't.
But they're not getting everything they need out of the talent? Is that what you're about to say?
They didn't reach their capability.
Hey, Brian, let me ask you this. Who you saw on the court in 2016, is that same group of girls here now?
No, it's
Am
not
I right?
exactly. It's not exactly the same, but there's still a good group of players here that could win. They just didn't.
So they are living up to their expectations.
We don't know that.
Interesting.
What are you talking
All right, well, let's keep going, guys. One of their greatest season, like Brian just mentioned, was 2 years ago, and that's when Saplinski joined, and that's under the whole Saplinski era. So the team made it to the MAC championship. They lost to Fairfield in 3 sets. So Brian, I'll take it back to you. Given the situation, when do you expect to see this team turn around?
Look, I think that this can turn around very quickly. You're going to get a new coaching staff, a whole new program's going to come in. Me and Josh talked about this earlier today. Look at the Quinnipiac men's basketball team. Baker Dunleavy comes in. It is a whole new scheme there. It's a whole new program. Everything is new, and the whole attitude of the program changes. They can win immediately next year. They don't lose that many players. You have Sherwin and Pansari coming back, 2 of your best players. This is a team that can win now.
That's the last time I prepped with you because
Yeah.
that was my point exactly. Look, the men's basketball team last year only won 12 regular season games. In 12 regular season games. So when you look at the team, you're not going to say that they had a ton of success last year, but they brought in a new coach and a new coaching staff and players that wanted to play for that coaching staff, and that turned around the culture. And that same exact thing can happen with this volleyball team. So you might see a year or two without a change in the record, but you will see a change on the court. You will see a change in the players, the type of players that are here. Maybe it's a different scheme, whatever it may be. A turnaround can happen immediately, but they have to hire the right person. This is a pivotal time for Quinnipiac Athletics to take a step. The women's basketball team we're gonna get to have been killing it. I mean, NCAA tournaments left and right. Men's basketball team is getting there. The men's hockey team is playing extremely well this year. Soccer team is playing well. The volleyball team needs to get to that level. This is a pivotal time for the administration to hire someone that can take this team and this program to the next level.
And with that, fall sports have officially ended, and winter sports are looking pretty good. One team that is doing exceptionally well is the men's hockey team. Last year, the team had one of their worst records since becoming a Division I hockey school, 16, 18, and 4. But now, they're 9th in the nation. Josh, take it from here. Is this team for real or what?
You know, Katie, I do think this team is for real, and here's why. Just looking at the stats, and I don't really like to have stats be the end-all be-all, but just I want to read off a couple of them because they're so glaring. They're averaging 2 more goals per game than their opponents. Everyone is involved. They have 84 assists on 49 goals because you can have 2 assists per goal. On the power play, they're converting on 25%, while their opponents are only converting at 12%. 10 players have 8 or more points. 2 players have 3 or more goals. No player on the roster has a negative plus-minus. So when you take all those things into account, it's very hard to say that this team isn't for real. I know that they are a younger team and they might not have the experience, but I'm all about coaches and systems, like I've said on the show multiple times, and just 5 minutes ago when Brian was wrong, that Grant Packnold is one of the best coaches in NCAA hockey, period. His scheme is great. He gets the best out of his players constantly. And when the coach is experienced, obviously player experience is a little tough to overcome, but the coaches being experienced will make up for that. And I think this team is for real because of what they're putting on tape and what the stats tell me.
Yeah, this team is absolutely legit, number 9 in the nation now. And you have an outstanding player, one that is at the top of the ECAC hockey conference in Odin Tufto. He's the leading scorer. Keith Petrozelli is now becoming one of the prime goaltenders in the conference. So this is a team that's going to be there at the top of the conference, potentially at the top of the nation. come NCAA tournament time, this is a team that can get there. They are legit, and they will be there at the end of the season.
Guys, no doubt this team is looking good. So this week, Breakdown chose the game of the week to be a series. That's because men's hockey plays against Princeton this weekend. The Bobcats play the Tigers home on Friday and on their grounds on Saturday. So Brian, what are your predictions for these two games?
You know, Katie, this series can go really either way. It could be 2-0, 1-1, or 0-2 for Quinnipiac.
That's a cop-out. That's not.
But,
okay.
no, I have my answer.
All right.
I have my answer.
Just wanted to call you on it.
Quinnipiac is going to win both games.
Okay.
I just said they're legit, so now I got to back that up. Yeah. Quinnipiac is one of the top teams in the nation. They are rolling right now. Odin Tufto is on a roll, 3 goals in a game against Maine on Friday night. Princeton, number 19. All right, yeah, they're really good. But Quinnipiac, if they want to show that they're this top 10 team, they're going to sweep Princeton.
No, in my opinion, these teams are pretty evenly matched. So I think if they were, the way I looked at it was, all right, if they were to play 3 games at a neutral ice, what would the outcome be? And I sat down and looked at the numbers. I looked at a little bit of tape, and I said 2-1, Quinnipiac. So now I looked at, all right, well, one game is home. It's the first one, which I think gives Quinnipiac an advantage. Second one is at Princeton, and so I said I think Princeton will be able to correct its mistakes, whatever they may be in the game, however they may take advantage, or Quinnipiac will have taken advantage of them. They'll also be home. So I have it being split, which, I'm interested to see what that would mean for the polls. But in terms of Quinnipiac ice hockey, if you were to split with Princeton early in the season, then I think that then you get the home victory. I think that it bodes well for the end of the season.
Yeah, I think a split would kind of keep them around 9-10.
Yeah.
A win, 2 wins, that would maybe bump them up to maybe 7.
I agree.
All right, so expect a split. But when we come back, it's all about basketball. And who better to debate that than these guys? Don't go far.
Do you like debate?
That's a converted relief pitcher making the start because it was a doubleheader. You got no hit by a relief pitcher. You can't tell me that's not embarrassing.
Analysis.
You can see his stance, his positioning right there is excellent.
And a side of entertainment.
Is he right or is he crazy? Well, we all know the answer to that. He's a bit crazy, but I gotta say,
Then join us on Bobcat Breakdown.
From the court to the ice to here on the diamond, we'll discuss everything you need to know about Quinnipiac athletics.
Bobcat Breakdown, Tuesdays at 9:30.
Welcome to the WQAQ Morning Show. Dan Ball and Emma Spagnolo joining you here from the QAQ studios in Hamden. And Emma, it is that time of year again.
Whether you're on the quad in your room or off campus, tune in to Q30 News for stories from student journalists you can trust.
We're covering the latest here on campus and in the surrounding communities.
Get the news you need to know every Wednesday night.
And we're back. So for those of you just joining us, Bobcat Breakdown here debating Quinnipiac athletics from the past 2 weeks. So let's get back to it with basketball. Josh, I'll start with you. Will the women's team lose another game before conference play? Mind you, they have lost 3 out of their 6 games so far.
Well, Katie, you mentioned 3 of the 6 games. 2 of them have been against ranked opponents. Texas was ranked 10th in the entire nation. So for me, I look at the schedule. There are a couple of games that could go either way. The UCF game, the Central Michigan game could go either way. But I don't think they will lose. Those are both at home. Quinnipiac has a very deep roster. I don't think those other teams can compete with their deep roster and just, the things that Quinnipiac does so well, like the gold rush and like just spreading the ball around and their passing and everything like that. So I don't see Quinnipiac losing before conference play. I don't see them losing in conference play as well. So I guess I'm not saying that. I don't see them losing again until the NCAA tournament when they will be an 8 seed.
Yeah, I think they're going to run through the MAC. But within these next 5 games, I think they will lose one of them. I don't know who it's going to be against, whether it's Central Michigan, UCF, even Princeton is a solid mid-major team. But to win 5 straight games out of conference, I know a lot of them are at home now, but it's tough. It is definitely tough for this Bobcats team to go undefeated over those next 5 games. You got some good mid-major teams in there. Central Florida, I think, will give them a good test, as well as Central Michigan. I think Central Michigan is the one that you really have to look in on and say, all right, this is a really good team. Central Michigan beat UCF already, So that is a team that could beat them. I think that they will lose one of those 5 games.
I think Central Michigan is a good test to kind of say, all right, we know what the conference has, and we know Quinnipiac's record in conference, right? Three of the last 5 seasons, I believe, they've gone undefeated in conference play. So Central Michigan will be a good test for them to measure themselves against opponents not in the conference, opponents they won't see multiple times before they inevitably make the NCAA tournament.
Yep.
All right, so this team, as you both probably know, operates on the Gold Rush, meaning Coach Fabry has 2 completely different sets of 5 for the court, instead of switching out one player for another. Brian, I'll start with you. How do you feel about this system that Fabry uses?
You know what? I don't really care, because as long as in the final 2 minutes of the game, if it's a close game, as long as Jen Fay, Aaron McClure, Paul Stroutmanet, Adele Thornton, and name your 5th is on the court, that's all that really matters, because it doesn't matter who you start. As long as it's who you finish with, as long as you're winning the game, who cares who starts? I mean, yeah, it's nice to be in that starting 5 graphic that KU women's basketball posts on Twitter, but I don't know. I don't think it really matters. I think that they play well no matter what. They like playing with the Gold Rush. They're successful with the Gold Rush, so keep going with it. They haven't started Jen Fay in the past couple of games, which, you know, who cares?
You know, I do agree with you, Brian. I think who plays the last 4 minutes of the game is much more important than who plays the first 4. I will say, though, it is interesting because Jen Fay didn't start against Texas, and she ended up playing the most minutes on the team with 29. And then Aaron McClure didn't start the next game and played the most minutes on the team with 28. So the player who has recorded the most minutes in the game, the last 2 games, has not started for the Bobcats. So whatever they're doing, it's obviously something they saw on film or something Trisha Fabry does. She's a phenomenal coach, so it's whatever she sees that she wants to put out there. Whatever her reason is for not starting Jen Fay or Aaron McClure, she makes up for it, I guess you could say is the word, by starting them and playing them the most amount of minutes in those respective games. So for me, it doesn't really make of a difference, you know, who's starting or who's not. As long as they're playing the minutes that each player should and deserves to play.
And one of the biggest reasons why it doesn't really matter is because you have to trust in Coach Fabry. This is a coach that has won 3 NCAA tournament games in the last 2 years, took UConn in a really good game. You almost beat number 10 Texas a couple of days ago. So this is a coach that's going to win no matter what, and she really knows what she's doing, so you have to trust her.
Exactly.
No doubt in this coaching staff here. And the women's team will be back in Hamden again this Sunday at 2 against Central Michigan University. QU 3-3 right now, and CMU at 5-1, so should be a good game. And like the women, the men's team has won half of their games for a 2-2 record so far. We saw some great play against the University of New Hampshire and University of Maine. One question about their wins, though, is this team too reliant on making 3 shots?
Well, you start.
Yes, but they should be. They're a really good 3-point shooting team. Obviously, Jacob Bergoni is a very good 3-point shooter. Cam Young has gotten a lot better. But without Rich Kelly, there's not much really they can do. They don't have a primary passer to move the ball around. Tyrese Williams has played pretty well other than the Villanova game, but he's not a true point guard. So you're really playing without a primary ball handler. So obviously you're going to rely on the 3 a little bit more. They've shot the ball well from there in the last few games with Bergoni. Aaron Robinson has shot the ball well from beyond the arc. So I'm okay with them living and dying by the 3 right now.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to add is I have no problem with them shooting 3s. They're not shooting that many more than their opponents. They're shooting 111. Their opponents have shot 97. The problem is that they're only hitting 32%. You know, if that number was 38 or 40%, then I think we're having a much different conversation. I think the conversation then is, should they be shooting more 3s? So, you know, 32%, the number's not there. And like you said, with Rich Kelly, their point guard, you know, the problem with that is just that he's their floor general, right? His court vision and his IQ on the court is so much better. Just because, well, first of all, like you said, Tyrese Williams is a freshman, but Rich is just a very talented player. That's why he was selected to the MAC All-Third preseason team. So when you look at Rich and what he brings, the pick and roll, finding guys throughout the court, I think that they won't need to be as reliant on the 3s because they can do other stuff and spread the floor. So, you know, with him out, it's very tough.
When Rich Kelly comes back, they won't be as reliant, but he can really space the floor
and
a lot better.
And he's a great shooter.
Right, and he's a great shooter too, so he'll add to that, and they'll be able to get more open shots when he's on the floor. So I think that they'll become a better 3-point shooting team while shooting less. So
I would be shocked if 32% doesn't bump up to about
no,
40%.
It would be between 35 and 40 when Rich is back.
All right, guys, so let's talk about the guys a little bit. In a new segment called Pro Bobcats, Cam Young, the preseason All-MAC first-team selection, What NBA player would you most compare him to, Brian?
Cam Young was tough for me because he is a great scorer. He's big for a guard. He kind of plays guard forward. He guard a bunch of different positions. I went with Kevin Durant, and I know what Josh is going to say. All right, Cam Young is not up to any level as far as Kevin Durant, but look at Cam Young's wingspan. Josh found this out today, 6'11" wingspan. Look how far Kevin Durant can go. I bet Kevin Durant's over 7 feet as well. The thing I like most about the two of them is they can guard every position and they can score at will. When their team can't score, Cam Young, especially for Quinnipiac, obviously Kevin Durant for Golden State, Cam Young can score, Kevin Durant can score at all points all over the basketball court.
I have no disrespect for Cam Young. The person I'm going to compare him to is a very good player as well. But Kevin Durant, Kevin Durant is the second best player in the NBA right now. I don't really know if that's debatable.
Okay, but
I'll welcome that debate.
Would you say maybe Cam Young's the second best player in the MAC?
Yeah, but when you look at Kevin Durant, right, it just looks like basketball is too easy for him, right? It honestly looks like basketball is too easy for him.
When Cam Young plays against St. Peter's this year, it's going to look like basketball is too easy for him.
I don't know about that. The guy I'm comparing him to is DeMar DeRozan. And it's a couple of reasons. First of all, Cam Young posted a great highlight tape over the summer working with a trainer. I read a lot of the comments. I didn't see any Kevin Durant, so I don't know what he's talking about. Saw a lot of DeRozan and a lot of Paul George. And I would agree with that, especially DeRozan. I think they both play a lot of off ball. They both do a great job of finding their own shot around the mid-range and knocking those down. They're very good at that. And I just like what he brings. He is able to get a few blocks and a few rebounds per game. So when you look at the numbers, obviously DeMar DeRozan plays in the NBA. Those games are longer. He's a fantastic player, so those numbers are going to be more inflated than Cam's. I just think they're very similar players in terms of they're both around 6'6", 6'7", and way around the same. DeRozan actually has a shorter wingspan. His is 6'9". So I don't know. I think Cam is a lot like DeRozan.
DeRozan's more explosive than Cam Young is.
Cam is one of the most athletic guys on the team. What are you talking about?
Well, when you
Did you see Cam Young's dunk against Villanova?
Oh, yeah. No, but when you compare him to Durant, obviously Durant is a better scorer, and obviously DeRozan is more explosive.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
I don't know. I think it's different, but if you want to say it's the same thing, then all right, go for it.
I will.
It's
I will,
just not. Okay. All right. Whatever. We'll move on.
Okay, well, let's talk about Jacob Rigoni. He's another name you'll hear a lot this season, so pro Bobcat. Josh, who is Rigoni most similar to in the NBA?
All right, I struggled with this a bit. I asked the players in the beginning of the season who they think their game is compared to, and Jacob Rigoni said his dad, so that didn't really help me out. I went with Nikolai Mirotic, the power forward for the Pelicans. The reason I said that is they're both great three-point shooters. They both are able to get some mid-range shots and drive to the basket, but it's not something that they do a lot. They both last season shot more threes than twos. That's where they live, and that's really what they bring. They're really good 3-and-D guys with a little bit more to their game. They're both good at getting some blocks and rebounds, but when I look at what Jacob Rigoni is, I think that's about where he is in terms of talent level and in terms of just someone that's able to knock down the shots when you need it and able to spread the floor a lot.
Yeah, I kind of went similar to that. I went with Danilo Gallinari of the Los Angeles Clippers. Figure they're both tall forwards, shoot the three ball very well, average defense, and yeah, they're just not great defenders. Obviously, Gallinari scores a lot more points per game, as you see in that graphic right there, but they're both very good three-point shooters. They're both known for that, obviously, and both not great defenders, but they're there. Also, another one we talked about earlier was Ryan Anderson. I think he's on Phoenix now, but he's also a 3 and not so much D guy. But I think Jacob Rigoni matches up well with those guys.
You know who Gallinari scores a lot of points for? My fantasy team.
Yeah.
In case you wanted, Katie, if you were interested, just wanted to put that out there.
It's all about the fantasy teams, right?
Always.
All right, so one more quick break, and we'll be right back with our Bobcats of the break, and of course, those final roars.
Welcome to the WQAQ Morning Show. Dan Ball and Emma Spagnolo joining you here from the QAQ studios in Hamden. And Emma, it is that time of year again.
determine what makes a good sandwich and a bad sandwich. First, the standard sandwich. Uninspired and frankly, a little gross. But we have here a Ray and Mike sandwich, the Cadillac of sandwiches. And if you want one, well,
come on down to Ray and Mike's at 3030 Whitney Ave, Hamden, Connecticut. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Qcash is accepted.
now that's a sandwich.
Let's get it going. Sports Pause starts right now.
We start tonight with some basketball coverage.
And here again, Aaron Robinson hits the shot of his life. I don't know what that celebration is, MJ, but I'm loving it.
Is that Fortnite?
All right, time to finish this up. Between the four major sports here, basketball and hockey, there are 82 athletes to choose from. I spent 10 minutes counting all of them on the athletics website, so it must be close to 82. Josh, who did you pick as your Bobcat of the break?
I picked Odin Tufto on the men's ice hockey team. I know Brian picked him too, so I'm not going to try to steal his thunder too much. But when you look at his stats from last weekend, 3 goals and 3 assists, I don't know how he's not. They swept Maine last weekend. So Odin Tufto is my Bobcat of the week. He's just a phenomenal player, having a great season, and last weekend was no exception.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, 3 goals, 3 assists against Maine. Outstanding weekend for Odin Tufto, and he's going to keep this going as Quinnipiac will sweep Princeton.
Tufto, he was mentioned by the NCAA too, but what about Cam Young for a close second? Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you could go with Cam Young, Aaron Robinson,
Aaron Robinson
Williams.
was my close second.
Yeah.
He had 26 points in the last 3 games, just someone that on and off the court is a leader for that team and someone who people just gravitate to and love to be around. So happy for Aaron Robinson that he's been playing well. You know, gets a lot of Twitter love, and I'm happy for it.
Yeah, big reason why Quinnipiac turned it around and has won their last 2 games.
Definitely look out for him this season. But now it's time for some final roars on your final thoughts. Josh, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Katie. William Arthur Ward once said that adversity causes some men to break, others to break records. While the Quinnipiac men's basketball team hasn't broken any records, it has recently gone through adversity playing without its starting point guard, sophomore Rich Kelly. With Kelly out, the Bobcats have mostly turned to freshman Tyrese Williams to start at the point. Williams' first start came against Villanova. Villanova, the defending NCAA champs. Yet, despite dropping that game and the one that followed, the Bobcats have now won their last 2 and have 1 more game to play before Kelly's expected back. While Quinnipiac has undoubtedly gone through tough times without its floor general, it has allowed for other players like Aaron Robinson and Tyrese Williams to step up, and the team will only be better because of it. Now, just wait for Kelly to get back on the court.
With just a few minutes to go in the second quarter against number 10 Texas, Mackenzie DeWeiss flipped a backwards pass over her head, miraculously into the hands of Jaden Ward, who finished the bucket. Number 4 on SportsCenter. Quinnipiac women's basketball finally gets some national recognition. Cool. Guess what the anchor said? Quinnipiac. Didn't we go through this 2 years ago when the Bobcats made the Sweet 16? Or how about last year when Quinnipiac gave top dog UConn all they had? Don't we just hear this too much now? Enough already. Quinnipiac is getting national recognition, sure. It's time it's done right. It's time it becomes a household name. Just like Texas, just like UConn, it's easy. It's Quinnipiac. For those of you who still don't know, you will.
So remember the first question tonight, whether the volleyball firing was on the coaches or the players. Yeah, let's get back to that. Last week, Chris Saplinski was fired. In 2012, former coach Robin Sparks was fired. And before that, in 2010, the school proposed to eliminate the sport entirely. But it wasn't, and it wasn't for a reason. It's a new chance for someone to bring the best out of these athletes. Some say the team underperformed, but I think that stems from the coaching. So who will they find? It'll be stressful finding someone willing to strengthen this program, but it'll also be stressful for these players to adjust to new styles. But it's a two-way street, a lot of potential down the road between these athletes, playing in a Division I conference, and awaiting a new coaching staff to step up. Hopefully, the new coaching staff proves why the school was right to keep the program. But with that, we're out of sports and we're out of news. On behalf of this entire station for making this show possible, for Josh and Brian putting up a pretty good debate, I'm Katie O'Keefe. Be sure to watch next week, same time, same place. It'll be the last show before winter break.